This is what's up with me back again, Analog Attack. Welcome to a bonus episode of Iron Maiden. Good day, sir.
Good evening.
How are you today?
Doing all right. I wonder how long this is going to take us, man.
Well, let's set the scene a little bit before we dive into it. So, Chris and I have done 16 episodes. We've done like an episode on each of the studio albums, kind of coming in from the beginning and the end and working our way to the middle, and we finished up with Fear of the Dark last week. So we're not going to be going too deep today, right, Chris? Because we've gone pretty deep with each album.
We'll see, won't we?
We'll find out, I guess, yeah. But if you kind of just come into this video as a standalone, it'll work. But I would recommend you go back and watch the other 16 episodes to get the full story about our thoughts on these records. Either way, whatever. It's both work. But this is kind of a bonus episode we decided to do. We're going to rank the albums. Going to be a couple of rankers today.
Is that some slang? Is that some British slang?
Have you done a ranking video before, Chris?
Kind
of done something like our top 5, right?
Yes.
Our favorites.
Blue Oyster Cult top 5, I think.
Yeah. We've never ranked an entire. I have by myself.
Yes, you've done it as a solo act many times.
Be prepared for a torrent of abuse in the comments. But actually, what I found about Iron Maiden is that it's pretty anything goes. Like I've watched quite a few videos, read quite a few online rankings. You know, there's a lot of different opinions. It's all over the place, really. So I'm pretty fearless about my choices.
I'm a little worried to see what you choose.
That's the only thing I'm worried about is your reaction. It's like, yeah. But I made my kind of list during the week. It's not going to change. But I usually say this when I do my ranking videos. It's like don't take it seriously. You know, it's not set in stone. Just a bit of fun. But, yeah, I'm kind of interested to see the way. But you have your Excel spreadsheet that you have from the data.
Well, I can't keep anything straight without it, you know.
Yeah. Because I'm a
list maker.
I'm probably going to contradict myself a little bit. My results might not totally match up with what I've said 3 months ago, but yeah,
we'll see.
I'll see.
I'll take you to task for it. I'll tell you that much.
You'll remember what I said. Yeah. So, anything else to say before we get into it? That's about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's dive in.
Okay.
I'll have you kick off, Chris, with your number 16. What you got?
So we're gonna hold up the records as we go. My number 16 is A Matter of Life and Death, but I don't own that record, so I just grabbed 3 random records from the stack. So in place of A Matter of Life and Death, you get Crematory, Denial, mini LP.
Cool.
This is the placeholder for Matter of Life and Death.
Wow.
Matter of Life and Death is the most boring album with Bruce. It is uninspired slog for me. It's emphasizes the worst Kevin Shirley production aspects, in that everything sounds like it's made of plastic. No hits, very long, very sad, very slow, and not the kind of sad and slow music that I like. Pretty ugly cover. Definitely I would say Crematory, Denial looks much better, fares much better, but today it holds the place of A Matter of Life and Death, number 16.
Number 16, eh? Interesting.
Yeah,
I remember
not the number of the beast, I guess.
Yeah, I remember you weren't too happy with that record when we did the episode.
So I will say I got to re-explore a lot of these later ones, that some of which I knew pretty well and some that I didn't. And I was hoping that would finally click for me. And I think I just made up my mind that it's just not the one for me.
Okay, cool.
What do you got?
Well, so the way I approach this is like, I don't really mind if there's like no particular hits on it. For me, it's like, how does the whole album stand up as a body of work, and how enjoyable is it for me to listen to, and is there much to discover, and this, that, and the other. So it was a tough one. 15 and 16 were kind of neck and neck, but I made an executive decision, and I've got to go with this one.
Whoa!
Oh, first surprise, first shock of the day. There we go.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like jumping in a cold swimming pool. Wow.
Yeah, I do not enjoy this record at all. I mean, it's like just a big tasteless sandwich between Be Quick or Be Dead and the title track.
This is a hot take.
Nothing to chew on for me.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing. It just kind of goes in one ear and out the other for me. Just uninteresting track after uninteresting track. You like side 4, remember? You're really excited about side 4. You'll probably talk about that a little bit. I wasn't excited.
My opinion in this album was diminished by this process.
Oh, really?
It got knocked down a few spots, yeah.
That's interesting. Well, it's like if you go back and watch other episodes, you'll kind of see our kind of different relationships with this discography. How I kind of jumped in from the beginning, then jumped out, and then jumped back in again, and then went back and kind of discovered albums that I'd never heard before. So that's where I stand with Fear of the Dark. It's my least enjoyable Iron Maiden album. As an album, I'm not saying, there's a couple of decent tracks on this, but as a whole album,
Can I ask you? Can I ask you a question to make this a little more annoying, but maybe more interesting?
Fire away.
Is it better or worse than Black Sabbath 13?
Worse.
Wow.
That's a fair question. That's even Stevens.
Okay.
Different beasts, I would say, but kind of.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to think of an album that we had sort of determined to be thoroughly mediocre.
They are both kind of mediocre, but
okay.
Which one's longer? I don't know.
Oh, 13's longer.
Okay.
Especially with the bonus tracks. And without the bonus tracks, it's not. But with the bonus tracks, definitely.
Yeah. All right, that's number 16 out of the way.
All right.
Shock.
Number 15 for me comes with a lot of caveats.
Okay.
So my number 15 is the X Factor, but I don't own it. So holding its place today is Willie and the Poor Boys by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Okay.
This copy belonged to Rick Judd. I don't know who that is, but this is the best Creedence album, and this is the second worst Iron Maiden album. However, as I said in the episode and probably a couple other times, there is a world where Iron Maiden released a much better version of X Factor, because there are 4 songs that didn't make the cut on the album. And if you had those 4 songs plus the first 3 songs and 1 or 2 others, I'll be honest, I have a list of which songs, but I didn't bring the list. I think I would like that album a lot. So there's actually a lot that I like about this record. It's just most of it didn't make the record. It could have been an immediate street level, like sort of new gritty version of the band, and instead we got 2 classic songs and then a bunch of songs that sound unfinished, and then a bunch of ragers that were left as B-sides and singles. So yes, for me, X Factor number 15. The reason I rank it above Matter of Life and Death is Sign of the Cross is still an absolute undisputed Iron Maiden classic song. So it has to be there.
What do you know?
Hey, there it is.
There it is. Yeah, it's my number 15 too. Very frustrating record for me. I want to love it. I do kind of respect the kind of dark atmosphere and they were kind of going for it. It's a failure. Didn't work out. As I kind of compared it to a lot of the like UK doom metal albums that were coming out around that time. Kind of gloomy, dark atmosphere. As you say, it's got Sign of the Cross, which is an absolute classic. You hated 2 a.m., I remember.
Oh, that's the worst song title.
Yeah, and there is a looking back at this track list, there is a lot to get through, but I still prefer it to Fear of the Dark.
That's such an amazing statement. I love but that's the thing. I think we both really wanted to root for Blaze once we got into the Blaze years.
I will take this kind of bleak, thin, brown and grey darkness over that kind of funky MTV
I understand that
vibe. So as a whole album, I find this a more enjoyable listen than Fear of the Dark. So it's my number 15. What could have been though, Chris? What could have been it? You know, it could have been higher.
You know, I lied. I do have the list here. I'm just gonna tell you, for all you Iron Maiden masochists out there, look, this could have been an excellent 50-minute album called The X Factor. Started with Judgment Day, then go to the radio edit of Virus that cuts out the long, clean intro. Justice of the Peace, I Live My Way. Then you get to Lord of the Flies, Man on the Edge. So that's your whole first side, and it's all just blistering fast, like raw sounding 90s weird Iron Maiden. Then you get to the flip side and you get the epics. You get Sign of the Cross, The Unbeliever, and Judgment of Heaven. So you got your fast side and you got your prog side. It's over in less than an hour. I'm almost tempted, Mike, to call up that place that makes the one-off records because
hey, two.
Oh, one for you, one for me. So that's what my my dream X Factor would be, and I would probably go to bat for that album. It would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Number 14.
Number 14, an album not as good as the Dream X Factor, but better than the X Factor we got. Brave New World. I
thought you'd have that a bit higher, actually.
This one fell down the list for me a lot.
You were quite enthusiastic about it
before. I gave it like a 6, maybe 6.5. This album, I still stand by the statement that it was an important album and it was the right album at the time for them. I like The Wicker Man. I like It Goes to Navigators. What's my jam on here? Out of the Silent Planet. I love Out of the Silent Planet. That's a great song. But yeah, it doesn't hold up that well. The production kind of just sounds like 90s garbage production. A lot of radio rock choruses. But it's the return of Bruce, and it brought Maiden to a new generation. So I understand a lot of people love it. But for me, it's pretty forgettable now.
Right.
I like the Rock in Rio versions better too.
Yeah. Interesting. That one and this one going to show kind of flip-flopped a bit, but this is the decision I came to. And sorry, Blaze. Yeah, tough one. Tough decision. This one. Lost a few hours sleep over this one, but this is such a weird, crazy, fucked up album. You know, I'm laughing, I'm crying, I'm like gasping, I'm shocked, I'm like a roller coaster of emotions on this record. But it's such a fun listen, you know. It's like I really enjoy listening to this record. It's just a crazy record.
It's something about that album, man. It's so good at parts and so bad at other parts.
Train wreck. You've got The Angel and the Gambler, which is just insane. But you know, Future Real is a classic, an Iron Maiden classic. The Clowns Man, you know. I don't know, yeah. I've listened to this record quite a few times since doing the episode. It's always a good time. This is my number 14. Virtual 11, number 14.
Well, you can keep that copy out because I don't own it. So the placeholder that I grabbed was Tony Iommi's 7-star album in place of Virtual XI.
You would fit in quite nicely.
Oh yeah, very sort of a glum-looking gentleman. Virtual XI is my number 3, Virtual 11, whatever. It's always XI in my head because of because of X Factor.
Yeah.
And really, it comes down to one thing. Klansman is the best Maiden song of the 90s by a lot. The best version of it isn't on that album, but without that, we wouldn't have it. Future Real is also an awesome song. Angel and the Gambler is strangely magnetic.
It is. I'd said if you're in the bar at 2 a.m., you don't want that chorus.
If it didn't have the Klansman, it would probably rank a lot lower for me. But that is such an amazing song, and it gets a huge reaction to this day. So it's almost like it places that high just for that song.
Right.
Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that one.
What a crazy record.
It is a what a mess. It's a real mess.
Yeah. All right, Chris. So my next three. So these three I invested the most time into in terms of like listening hours. I really put in the work for these next three because I was the least familiar with them, and they needed to be listened to properly and given a thorough, proper listening. And two of them kind of worked for me, and one of them didn't work so much.
I'm scared.
This one for me. See, this is the only Iron Maiden album that I don't own on vinyl. This is my least. It's probably my least favorite of the Bruce return, right? And his first.
Yep.
Yeah. There's something about it. It's got that kind of bounce. We know it's not new metal, but it's kind of got that vibe, the radio rock vibe. I don't find it's as deep or as rewarding as the other two, but I've got a little higher than this. It's a little light in the loafers for me. I can't stand Blood Brothers, although I recognize its importance in stadiums of the country where this t-shirt was probably made.
It's a hard song to get through, though. It's really annoying.
It's just something about it, the whole vibe, the whole atmosphere of the album is not quite as enjoyable for me as the other.
It's really of the time. It's really of the time.
Yeah, and coming into it sort of late. Yeah. I understand how important. I mean, people must have been really excited about this album when it came out, right? The return.
It seems like it. That's how I remember it. They certainly did a lot of press for it.
Yeah, but The Wicker Man is obviously a classic, but it's got that bounce that really irks me. The jumping up and down thing. Yeah, so that's my number.
It's not timeless. It's not with that bounce. Not with that bounce.
True. So yeah, that's my number 13. Brave New World.
All right. Number 12.
Interesting.
No Prayer for the Dying. I think this time just sort of affirmed what I already knew about this album. I like it. It's fine. I listened to it again this morning, and I was thinking, it just feels like an EP to me. It just doesn't feel like a fully fleshed out album. It feels like a stopgap. Some of the songs are really fun. I like the Tail Gunner. I actually kind of like Bring Your Daughter. Hooks in You, Holy Smoke are fun, but some of them are just so I still don't. If you put a gun to my head and was like, sing me the guitar riff from Fate's Warning, I'd be like, I really don't know.
Yeah.
And coming off an album like Seventh Son, to have a song that's that forgettable, that's insane to me. So it's a fine album, but it doesn't sound particularly good. It doesn't have that many compelling songs, and it just doesn't have like an interesting vibe to it, to me.
All right. Here we go. My number, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fearful of what's coming.
Here we go.
Oh,
Oh, really? Yeah, I kind of got really deep into this record. It clicked for me at some point. It took a while. When it did, it was a fun time, you know. I like it. I mean, I don't mind the whole, like, you know, you hate this. I don't hate
It's
this.
terrible.
I don't live in America. I don't see this thing.
Yeah, do they even have trucks in Japan?
Not with like not this on it though, like big
I know.
flags and stuff, and like, you know, Japanese flags. Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy listen. It is a little boring, but when I'm in the mood for some kind of deep listening, I'm gonna pull this bad boy out and immerse myself in it because it clicked for me. And I like, you don't like Different World, I like Different World. Good single. Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, another favorite from this album.
Yeah, I just don't care for these songs.
Yeah. But, you know, it was a tough one. It could have gone either way with Brave New World, but this is, for me, much more enjoyable
Fair enough.
than Brave New World.
What number is it? Am I on 11?
I think you are.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
For 11, I have the baby riding the goat in the bikini. I have Dance of Death. I think you probably discovered this album more than me in our run here.
Yeah.
This is the first Bruce Comes Back album that really feels good, really feels like an album. Still some radio choruses, and we still got we got some sea shanties too, but like Wildest Dreams is a great kickoff track.
Yeah.
Montségur is I think that song is actually like probably one of their best of the last 20 years. It's such an interesting and weird chorus that I don't even care that it's kind of Jack Sparrow. It's a really good sort of I prefer Maiden in a major key, and that one really delivers it. Dance of Death, the song is good. Gates of Tomorrow, like awesome track. I love Passchendaele. I like really I'm down with pretty much everything on here except No More Lies. You know, it looks horrible, but this album's really good, really sturdy later day Maiden album. And I feel like I sort of feel like that might be the one to check out if you want to go deep and you've never checked out any of the Bruce Comes Back albums, because it has a lot of variety.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
What do you know?
There
you go. It's the second time we've done this. Yeah, man. I kind of did not fall in love is a bit of an exaggeration, but I grew to like this album a lot. I think
you rated this very high, Mike. You gave this like an 8.
Did I? Yeah. I think like the thing about this as well, you know, apart from what you just said, is Nico is really has a fire in his belly on this record.
I agree.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference, you know. He's kind of really attacking the kit throughout this record. Adds a lot to the dynamic of this record. It's heavy. It's a heavy record. It's powerful. It's energetic. And that Passchendaele is unbelievable. That was like the first time I'd really gotten to know that song. It's amazing. And the Face in the Sand, I think, was another kind of deep cut that I really liked with this record too. Great record.
You know, if the cover had been classic for a different reason and not classically bad, if this had an outstanding cover image, I think this might have been a more accepted album. Yeah. I think we might have said that in the episode, that it's been sort of unfairly scuffled to the side because of that screensaver.
So many Gate to Tomorrow is another great song on this record. Amazing. Good record.
Yeah, it's really. I'll probably throw it on this weekend, I think.
Oh, I'm gonna do that. All right, you're up to your number.
I believe this is number 10.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is.
There he is.
Your least favorite.
Yeah.
Fear of the Dark. not their best. Certainly a bit of a troubled album. Probably about 4 songs that you could just get rid of. But I like Be Quick or Be Dead. I'm all right with From Here to Eternity. I like The Fugitive. I like Chains of Misery, Judas Be My Guide, Weekend Warrior, Fear of the Dark. These are all good cuts. And, I mean, this is part of a decade of turmoil for the band, but you do get to hear them try a few things. And, I'd say when Maiden is trying something new, it works about 75% of the time. So you got some misses. But it also that is kind of the pattern on the Bruce Returns, on the 6-piece albums. They do try some things and it doesn't always work. The big draw, this at one point would have been like my number 8. I guess it's only down to number 10, so it's really only fallen a couple spots. But even at 10, I was like, is it really number 10? Like, it was pretty neck and neck with Dance of Death. And I I gave it the edge because I have ranked it higher in the past, and I do like it a lot. It's got a couple bummer tracks, but you know what? It's cool that you get stuff like the song where Yannick is kind of doing a Blackmore impersonation, and it's interesting to hear them still trying to do the Americanized stuff, and it works a little better on this one, I think.
Right.
And the last classic cover image.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, obviously, the closing track is a absolute huge classic to this day.
Right.
So that counts for a lot.
Good. Okay, Chris, it's party time. Are you ready?
Right.
Ready to rock?
All right, I'm ready.
Then this is our soundtrack. Obviously, huge drop off from the previous 7. But you know what? I used to really hate this record, but doing this series, hey, it's a fun record. There's no like really, really, really horrible songs on there. Like as you said, Fate's Warning is not so good. Public Enemy #1, horrible track, horrible song titles. But Tail Gunner, Holy Smoke. I've even come around to Bring Your Daughter a little bit since like a couple of weeks ago.
I think that's a fun one, man. I really do.
It was a big hit. I remember it at the time. Because I think I said I kind of totally stopped following Iron Maiden at that point, and that song came on the radio, and I was just, oh man, I thought I'm so glad I kind of didn't follow this band. This is what they kind of turned into. But in retrospect, fun record. I'm not drinking beer at the moment, but when I do return to drinking beer, it's going to be one of my party records along with AC/DC and Motorhead and Rose Tattoo.
A beer drinking album.
Beer drinking album. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What were you going to say?
Denim and leather. No spandex, right?
Yeah. That strictly denim, and there's no spandex on that album as well. They're back to the denim and leather look.
Yeah.
All right. Final Frontier is number 9.
Oh.
That comes as a shock to you, I see.
Yeah, I thought you'd had a little switcheroo with that one.
I thought so too, but it's really close. It was really close between Final Frontier and Book of Souls.
Yeah.
And I listened to them back to back once this week, and I think this is I like them. I mean, I really like them almost equally. What I like about this album is how like sort of deep and proggy the longer songs get, like Starblind and Talisman, Isle of Avalon. That sort of like run of songs just is really interesting.
Yeah.
They do a lot of stuff that you don't normally hear. I think the song Mother of Mercy comes a little early in the album, and I don't like that as much. And then the
You don't like the chorus.
Like that interminable intro with the industrial sound effects. It's kind of a lame way to start the record.
Laptop, as you call it.
Yes, Adrian's laptop. But overall, man, it's a cool album. It's sort of it's a different kind of heavy metal album than they had done up to that. I think it's a better realization of what they were going for with The Matter of Life and Death, because it is long, it's proggy, but I feel like it's more substantial. It's a bigger meal than that album. And I think when they do the sort of radio choruses like Coming Home and When the Wild Wind Blows, those are like, you're like Jack Sparrow, kind of like, Lord of the Rings, Celtic Pipes of Pan stuff, but they sell it to me. I'm here for it. It works. And that ultimately the reason why I put that one below Book of Souls is Book of Souls has like a bit less of that kind of like sea shanty stuff, I think.
Yeah.
And a little just a little more of the classic Maiden that we love injected into it. So Final Frontier is number 9 on my list.
Interesting, tough one. I too was like debating number 9, number 8 were really tough. It's like,
but I really came to love that album, and like it's been getting play since we did that episode.
Same. Yeah. Okay, so this is my number 9. It could have been number 8, but it's going to be number 9. Yeah.
All right.
Really important album for me. It kind of rekindled my interest in Iron Maiden, and it kind of made me go back and listen to a lot of the records I hadn't listened to before. I played this thing to death when it came out, like 3 or 4 times a day. I was in love with it, and it kind of brought back a lot of memories of discovering Iron Maiden when I was a teenager, and really, really important record for me. But how many years has it been now? Well, 7 years. 7 years have passed since it came out. I haven't listened to this as much. I had a real 6 months to a year where I played it to death, but it doesn't get much airplay. Well, kind of for this episode, I pulled it out again, and obviously I still like it a lot, but it is a little bit too long. I mean, I know all these Iron Maiden albums are lengthy, but the triple, it's kind of tough to listen to this thing like in one setting. So it doesn't get as much listening time as the next one on my list has been getting. So, but you know what? I remember when that video, like, and Speed of Light came out. So exciting, wasn't it? Remember that, Chris?
I do remember it, and I remember just thinking like, this is like the most immediate sounding song they've done in God knows how long.
There's even kind of like a little mistake in the drumming. Nico kind of stumbles a little bit, but they just left it in. Very cool. Yeah, but for today, it's going to be my number 9.
All right.
Very important album for me. Absolutely.
And you forgot they brought back the pointy logo too.
What do you think? The artwork's okay. I don't know. Let's not go into the artwork again. It's
passable.
Yeah. There you go.
It's my number 8, Mike.
Yes.
as I've pretty much insinuated here, and I played it again today just to make sure, because like I said, it was neck and neck.
Yeah.
The first half of the album, is really just like straight up and down, sort of like new classics. Eternity Should Fail. If you cut off that sort of beginning thing with is essentially the taped intro for the tour, that song really gets going, and it's got a nice galloping pace, which you don't get too much Maiden gallop anymore. Speed of Light is great. Great Unknown's pretty good, and then you get the Red and the Black, which is like, I think their best epic, and maybe the whole span of Bruce's return. When the River Runs Deep works pretty good, and then you get to the Book of Souls, and for title track, that one kind of takes you back to a Power Slave thing.
Yeah.
But I like overall just that first chunk. There's less of the like sort of what we've called the Jack Sparrow flavor. And that's pretty far into a long album without that. And then Death or Glory is next, which even though Speed of Light is the hit and probably the song I would expect them to bring back later on, Death or Glory is kind of like maybe the best song. That could be on Power Slave. They wrap it up and you lose a little bit of steam with Shadows of the Valley is a good song, but it's definitely an album cut.
Yeah.
Tears of the Clown, kind of same thing, but they're good album cuts. I would say you could cut either Man of Sorrows or Empire of the Clouds. Empire of the Clouds is kind of, they do these stunt songs where it's a lot of non-traditional instrumentation. That one's like really piano driven. It's 18 minutes. I think for what it is, it's a really good song. I always surprised how much I'm not annoyed by it, because on paper it's my worst nightmare. It's 18-minute solo Bruce composition, piano orchestration, although points for singing about World War One, because as you know, I don't like when they go topical. I just keep it history or keep it occult, whatever. Yeah, so it's a little ragged towards the end there, but sometimes I'll think like, oh, I don't know if I want to invest in a triple LP right now in terms of my time, and then I'll put it on and I'll be like, actually, like every song on this album works. They really they put in the work on this one, and I think it paid off, and I think this really like pays off the 15 years prior as well. Like that could have been their last album, and it would be a triumph.
Right.
So
yeah, I think this album for me could be kind of my greatest discovery of this whole series. Yeah. Like that whole middle section with, I remember I was just like so enthused with Starblind. I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit by saying like one song shouldn't elevate an album, but I love that song so much that it does actually elevate this album for me. It's just incredible. That middle section with the Isle of Avalon too, all that progressive stuff, man, there's just a lot to discover on this record. And once I got over those hurdles that I had, that I was having trouble with, I was in for the ride, and I couldn't stop playing this thing, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I could almost rank it higher, but it would be unfair, I think. It wouldn't be realistic to rank it any higher, but great album.
Something about that Isle of Avalon, really, that's a special song for them. That really feels almost like it's out of time. Like that could have been where they went after Seventh Son to me. Because it is more progressive and it is more conceptual.
Yeah, it's interesting that kind of that middle chunk, that's kind of unusual to have a really kind of interesting middle section,
I mean, sounds like they worked really hard on this album too, and they front loaded it with a few very immediate songs, this Coming Home and El Dorado and Final Frontier, and then it's like then they sort of slip into third gear in that middle section, and just all kinds of stuff happens, man.
Honestly, man, it's amazing. I still know people who are kind of not convinced, but I beg of you, give this one another try. If you
really
got hurdles, it's really, really rewarding record. I love it. It's kind of a classic in a way, I would say. It's a great record.
I think if you go, I feel like this whole series, we've been praising this album. And so I'm going to do, even though I already talked about it, just a little more, man. If you go into it, it's not Number of the Beast. It's not fast. But it's an album that, from a traditional heavy metal perspective, it's like Maiden taking that on. They still feel like Maiden, but it's almost like them doing like a classic Dio record, or even maybe like a classic Fates Warning record or something like that. But still like very Maiden in scope. And it's just when it clicks for you, when you stop expecting the gallop and when you stop expecting the harmonies, you just get to hear these guys do like one of their best records.
Well said, sir. Yeah, that was definitely the best discovery of this whole series. Brilliant. I might have to actually, but the original's the picture disc, right? I'll stick on.
Yeah, that's the problem. We have to own these represses by default.
Parlophone. There you go. All right.
That's been the other big discovery. Parlophone Maiden reissues.
Parlophone, yeah, the best little record label in the world. There you go. So number 8, right?
That was number. So I'm on number 7.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, number 7 for me is the number of the beast. I mean, just the first 7 Iron Maiden albums always change places in my order. I love them all. I mean, it's some of my favorite music ever. Like I've said before, it's just an incredible winning streak in the 80s. No bad records in the 80s. Like that. The number of heavy metal bands that you can say that about, unequivocally without qualifiers. I feel like even like a Judas Priest, like you can say that, but like, is Ram It Down really like part of what you would call a winning streak, or is it just pretty good generic heavy metal? Iron Maiden has 7 outstanding distinctive albums in the 80s, and so one of them has to be number 7 on the list. For me, it's this one. No disrespect to Clive Burr, because this is his last record and he's great. Honestly, it comes down to I think Children of the Damned comes a little too early in the order. 22 is probably my least favorite of the 80s songs.
That song hasn't held up well.
No. And we could have used not Gangland.
Invaders?
No. What's the song they left off? Why am I blanking on this? Not True Fans.
It's on the Japanese.
Yeah, you know what's that?
It's on the Japanese pressing, right?
Total Eclipse.
Yeah.
We could have used Total Eclipse on here. That said, like something from Number of the Beast auto played when I was using the digital listening music the other day, and I was how many times I've listened to this hundreds of times in my life, and I was so like, God damn, like listen to that, what a band. Yeah. So this is number 7, but it's number 7 in a sea of winners, and it's a winner too.
Yeah, nice choice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, it is. They're all nice choices at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, let's keep it real. So we're going back to kind of my, era. Really, this is the record that in real time I dropped off following Iron Maiden. I didn't like Flight of Icarus when it came on the radio. I didn't buy the album when it came out, so I was kind of rediscovering it like decades. I was kind of familiar with it though, but I don't think I think friends of mine had it, so I listened to it a lot, but I never bought it. Yeah, it's still definitely my least favorite of the first 7. But there's some classics on it though. It's like it's hard to like put it so low when there's like Where Eagles Dare, Die With Your Boots On, The Trooper, all on this record. But I still can't get that out of my mind from going back to 1982, 1983 and how I felt about it then. And my position on it hasn't really changed until now. So it's my least favorite of the first 7.
Well, musically, 1982, 83 was what they call an embarrassment of riches. Virtually any music made during that time is pretty cool or amazing. So we can't blame you too much for shunning one great album in the face of so many.
I think it's a fair decision.
Number 6.
Number 6.
Power Slave. Love this album. my favorite Iron Maiden production. Obviously the first two songs are, in the top five, classic, like unforgettable Maiden songs. I love, like I said, when we talked about it, I love how like out there, sort of like tightrope walking it gets on Flash of the Blade and Duelists, and it's kind of like songs that aren't hits and don't really like strike you as much in the middle of everything, but where there really is a lot of like very inventive guitar stuff going on, and along with very inventive bass player, and then we know how I feel about Back in the Village. I come around to it. It's a good song, but I hate that he's singing about the kitchen and all that. Power Slave is a classic. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is a classic, although I think they topped those songs, in terms of epics. So again, number 6 in a great run of records, but still an absolutely amazing record.
Yeah.
Nevertheless.
Well, if we had done this 5, 6, 10, 15 years ago, I would have ranked this one higher. But I discovered better things since then. So this is my number 6.
Oh, that works out nicely.
Yeah, and with the broken Obi that I broke on air in the episode. Yeah, I can't find a replacement. What about that? But anyway, I mean, obviously, okay. I bought this when it came out. I saw them on this tour. I've talked about how it was difficult to accept Bruce at the time. I was a huge Paul Di'Anno fan. Kind of did accept it. It wasn't the same for me, and as I said, I kind of dropped off really after this record. Didn't buy Peace of Mind new. But we talked about Acacia Avenue hasn't held up well, especially lyrically. It's kind of embarrassing. Some sequencing problems. I hate this word, and it's basically meaningless, but I do think it's overrated. I think a lot of people just immediately say Number of the Beast is like their favorite album, but there's better records, Iron Maiden records from that first run of 7, in my opinion. But this is probably the most famous Iron Maiden album, right? To people who don't know the band, everybody knows this record.
Yeah, I think that's the one that is sort of, that's their Paranoid. It's a great album, but there's a few better ones if you.
Well, I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago, but I've changed my mind and I've made some discoveries, important discoveries that I'm glad I made.
Important archaeology.
Yes. Okay. Oh, that means we're in the top 5, eh?
Yeah.
The top 5.
This is a little bit of a shocker for me, because my number 5 is Peace of Mind. And for a long time, this was my favorite Bruce album, and this was higher on the list, I'll just say. I still love this album. I really enjoy the sound. I enjoy it. This is like the birth of sort of the quintessential Maiden lineup. Like you said when you were talking about it, I mean, Where Equals There, Die With Your Boots On, The Trooper. I really think every song just delivers nonstop. I do think it sags a little when it hits to Tame a Land. And I think that song is cool. I love that it's about Dune. I appreciate that it sort of establishes that there's always going to be these epic closers. But I think it's pretty easy to say that To Tame a Land of the sort of classic Maiden era is the least good of the epics. And I don't know, we're in like the top 5 albums by a band where I like, basically all but 2 or 3 out of 16 albums. So we're at this point, like every album that I'm going to talk about is like a 10 out of 10. I mean, actually it's not, because we ranked these. I think I gave this one a 10. No, I gave it a 9.5. So These are all A's or A pluses. Like, you know what? There's 3 10s out of 10s in this list. This is a 9.5 out of 10. But an amazing album, man. Simply one of the best records I've ever heard.
There you go. So this is one of the records that would have ranked lower for me in previous years, decades, but I've kind of grown much more attached to this one. And as you said, we talked about it, The Flash of the Blade and the Duelists, man. Those two, like, I really, really had a good time, like, delving deep into those two deep cuts that don't get a lot of love. People don't really talk about those two songs in the pub. You know, hey, they're amazing. The guitar interplay that we were talking about, unbelievable stuff, really. But because
the problem with Power Slave for me is always that it's the first 2 songs and the last 2 songs, and people forget about what's in between.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was a hurdle for me for a long time as well. But
even though I hate, and I still do hate it, Lost for Words, it should not be on this album. I stand by that opinion. It's still going to be ranking number 5 for me.
Let me ask you a question. If Lost for Words was retitled Dance of the Pharaohs,
yeah,
would you feel better about it? And okay, wait. If it was titled Dance of the Pharaohs, and instead of Nico counting it off in the beginning, they had some kind of like ancient Egyptian chanting.
Yeah, that would be cool. They should have some little kind of Middle Eastern instrumentation as well going on in there too.
Okay, so with all that, would you allow it to stay on the album?
No problem. No.
Okay, it's very flexible. That's nice of you.
Yeah. I'm open to things. But yeah, fun. It's funny. I would never have ranked this album so high 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but it's definitely kind of stood the test. I can't say stood the test of time because I didn't. Man, when did I first hear this album? I don't know. In its entirety, like I knew the singles and stuff, but like, I never bought it when it came out. It's a lot of years before I actually bought a copy, but yeah, it's definitely more enjoyable than Number of the Beast, even though they're both classics, obviously.
All right. Number 4.
Interesting. That's interesting.
This actually, at one point, I might have had lower. Well, no question. I
like, you mean higher, lower?
Yeah,
lower.
I mean, I've always loved this album. Like I said, the first 7 are interchangeable for me. Mm-hmm. But I think because it wasn't a Birch production and some of the sequencing stuff, I used to like it less. And now, especially this run when we really talked about it in depth, and I really just sort of, I really like the guitar sound on this. I love that weird sort of like overloaded, like you could really hear the circuits working too hard when you get the chugging on Running Free and stuff like that. And I used to not think that was cool, but it gives it a lot of character. And I really genuinely, I love that sound now. But beyond that, just thinking about how different this was for 1980 and thinking about, when we talked about the whole of 1980 and sort of like what was going on in hard rock and heavy metal. And then hearing a song like Charlotte the Harlot or Phantom of the Opera and just being like, there's only one, and this is it, and you've got just an absolute crack team of members. Like sometimes it's cool when you just get one album of like cool mix of members that you're never gonna get again. Like it's not just that it's Paul Di'Anno on vocals, it's also that it's Dennis Stratton on guitar and vocals and Clive Burr on drums, and with Steve Harris and Dave Murray. This is just it's such an amazing album, and there's nothing like it anywhere. The new wave of British heavy metal was vast and varied, and This is such an amazing collision of like rawness and technicality, and just like serendipitously like well-crafted songs, like songs where you can't believe that a 7-minute song is that catchy. So this is a really special record, but it got a 9.5. I think merely for sequencing.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, Remember Tomorrow comes in.
Well, yeah, a tad too soon.
Too soon. Yeah. Cool. Well, for people that don't know me, this won't be a shock, but people who like maybe do know me from like certain dark corners of the internet from like a decade, 15 years ago, might be surprised by my choice, because looking at the guy who was was very cheeky about the Bruce Dickinson era and was strictly a Paul kind of guy, and had gone about it at length at 2 a.m. well, drunk. That guy is no longer with us. He's left the building. You've got me now. There you go. Yeah.
Shocking turn of events.
Yeah, but what can you say? It is a classic. You've said everything really that needs to be said about it. I still love it. It means a lot to me I was like 13 when this came out. I think I bought it pretty soon after it. I think I bought Killers first, right? And then I went back and bought this. But I'd heard it on Tommy Vance. I kind of knew all the songs. They were on the radio every Friday night. You'd read about them in Kerrang and like all the music magazines every week. And I was obsessed with this band. I went to see him. I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, they were my favorite. Motorhead and Iron Maiden were probably my two favorite newer bands, at the time. After Deep Purple, I had the old, but Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd were the old school bands, and Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Pink Floyd. Motorhead and Iron Maiden were my two favorite kind of new bands.
They're part of a new wave, so to speak.
Yeah, even though Motorhead were a bit older, but they felt new to me. Obviously it's a classic. It's punky, but we kind of trounced that theory. But people do say it's punky.
Funky in spirit.
Funky in spirit, yeah. The album cover is just iconic. Still looks good today. Yeah. Very important record, but things change. You go on a musical journey, discover things. You get into prog rock, get into jazz. I've got two records that, for me, are much more enjoyable than this, which we'll get to.
I wonder if our top three is going to be the same.
We're matching up.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, I think we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It is the same, but we'll see what the order is.
Yeah. Okay, are you ready?
I am.
Somewhere in Time at number 3.
Okay.
I love this record. I've loved it for a long time. And it slipped a little bit in the rankings. And then when we did the episode on it, and I think I had written down a tentative ranking of maybe like a 9 out of 10. And I realized after only saying nice things about this album for about an hour that I couldn't say anything bad about it. And it's a 10. It's a perfect album. I've always loved it. I love the guitar synths. I love the futuristic melancholy feeling. I love the Saturday morning cartoons aspect of it. This is just, this is probably the saddest album that makes me happy. It's a perfect 10. It's a perfect record. There's 0 things wrong with it.
Very well said, my friend. I'm going to have to
There it is.
Man, I've just fallen in love with this record. It took a long time. It is perfect. It is sad, but it brings me a lot of joy. There's nothing, we didn't say anything bad about it. I think we realized, didn't we? We were talking, we haven't said anything bad about this record.
I have no complaints.
Me neither. It's beautiful. Just right. Everything about it is it's perfect. Yeah. It's so funny. I'm kind of repeating myself, but I would never, ever have kind of put this so high. If I was done a ranking 5, 6, 10 years ago, wouldn't even thought about it. I used to laugh at people who said they like this album. You know, what are you talking about? It's like, it's rubbish compared to, you know, the Paul era.
You called it Disneyland, I think.
Did I?
Disneyland Iron Maiden.
You remember the funniest things.
Yeah, no, my mind is a real mystery to science.
It was a classic. People, I think, I kind of get the thing that people who are about like 10 years younger than me, this was kind of maybe their entry point with the band, and they kind of love it. They loved it right from the get-go. Whereas
there must be people who heard Wasted Years as their first Iron Maiden song.
Yeah.
You know? And so that makes sense.
I feel like the American punk guys that I know that are kind of in their mid-40s, they always kind of go to bat for this record. So
those youngsters.
Very young. Yeah, the kids of today. Wow.
Well, how do you follow up a masterpiece, Mike, with another masterpiece? The capstone, the crowning achievement of a winning streak.
It's no secret.
Lasted.
I mean, I might as well.
Yeah, take it out. Of course. I mean, what an incredible achievement of music and composition and mood and like everything. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It gets no better.
Yeah, as usual, it's difficult. It's more difficult to talk about the records that you like than it is than the ones that you kind of have things to complain about. But no bad songs, just some deep cuts. When you think it can't get any better, you know, it's like, God, and then Only the Good Die Young to finish it off with. Just from start, the Moonchild, that acoustic intro mixed in with the new synths, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful. I like it. I even bought a T-shirt, but I don't do that often.
It's the last time, I guess, that they really let themselves be as dense as that, because it's still a really compact and tight album. You know, it runs like 45 minutes. Get to the next record only 2 years later, and they make an album almost the same length, but with just so much more emptiness to it. And this is just, it's like every minute counts. It's like every riff goes somewhere and takes you to a new secret passage. Bruce sounding just like you know, at the peak of his powers. Yeah, man. They don't make them much better than that.
It's just like floating in a clear, icy pool of water and letting the music just wash over you. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The colors actually do. I mean, it takes it to an 11 for me. I just love the colors on this record.
The execution, yeah, down to the. I mean, and there's your last really classic Derek Riggs art. Like it just, everything about it is like a, you know, it's the finale of such an impressive run of time.
Yeah. Well, there can only be one number one.
Yes.
It's always been my number one.
It's always well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's always been my number one. Because this was probably the second Iron Maiden album I heard, and as soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh, this one's my favorite," and it's never fallen.
No, all these years, 19. When did it come out? 81, right? Bought it in 81. I saw them in 81, and there's been years, decades, even not decades, but years where I, maybe not listen to this record, but I can pull this out. I kind of know every nook and cranny of it, every song back to front. It's perfect in every way.
I couldn't agree more. Perfect production from Martin Birch. One of Martin Birch's very best production jobs in a sea of great jobs.
I think I didn't have any complaints. There might have been I might have had a little complaint about the sequencing, but I don't think so. Of course, the Japanese version has details of Twilight Zone on it.
I'm holding the my American pressing today, and so this has Twilight Zone, just regular old Twilight Zone in here too. But yeah, I mean the Smith and Murray guitar duo is born. Steve Harris's bass just sounds like it's the sound for the first time ever. Paul sounds great. I mean, I don't know, like maybe the best heavy metal album of 1981.
Oh yeah, I think
it's either number 1 or 2.
Yeah. Every time I look at this, just reminds me, because that's exactly what it looked like.
Oh my god, I can't believe you lived through it. I just can't.
Yeah, I'm glad I went to that show. It was such a lucky series of events that allowed me to attend. If I hadn't, what would have happened? Could have turned out quite differently for me. Yeah.
We can't say you could have been a victim of a Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I mean, definitely kind of like, I don't know. I kind of already loved the band. Just kind of cemented the deal for me. But, yeah. There you have it. That was interesting.
You did it.
We had some matching choices. We had a few different ones, but yeah.
Well, congratulations, Mike. We have completed the Iron Maiden
we have
Piece of Maiden run. We've ranked all our choices.
Congratulations to everybody who's made it this far.
Yeah. Your checks are all in the mail.
Yes. It's been a good time. It's been fun.
I really appreciate it. This has been a really nice ritual to have.
What are we going to do next Saturday? What are we going to do?
I don't know. Yeah, we'll take a week or two off, and then we'll find something new.
I need to do a couple of punk episodes. People are complaining. Get back to the hardcore. Do some hardcore. Interview Barney again. Do
He's got a tour coming up, I see.
Yeah, he wants to get back on, so I'll probably have him on before they go on tour. All right, Chris. It's been a lot of fun. Top 3 staying. That was nice.
I mean, that just shows that we were meant to do this together.
Exactly. Nobody else could have done it. All right. That's it. A bonus episode of Piece of Maiden. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay healthy and stay clean.